All right, you ready?
Ready.
Okay, all right. Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. Today I have come to the home of Jim and Lynn Swanson. Lynn is going to join me in the video today. They are in Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B, for those of you who are interested in that little piece of information, so we don't get very cold.
Yes.
So we're kind of in the perfect
It's a
slot.
good climate.
It is a good climate. We're going to take a look at a very, very beautiful residential garden here in the northern part of the city that has just, blows me away. It's a fairly big lot, and we'll talk about that as we get started. Do you want to tell folks some of yours and Jim's history in this house?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. We've lived here about 37 years and just bought the house. It had the blank lot with just a few builder plants up front. Didn't love
Right.
gardening at the time.
Right.
But about 25 years ago, the gardening bug hit hard, and
Right.
now I've been filling it up.
Filling it up quick, actually. And so you had to take down some understory back here.
Yes, we did take down some understory, and then Jim took a hard hand to any junk seedlings that came up.
Gotcha.
Took them down, limbed up some of the mature trees so that we could garden down into the woods.
Okay, so let's start with these two trees
yes.
that are behind us. Tell me about these and where
Okay.
you acquired them.
Yes.
Okay.
This is Cornus Cusa wolf eyes, and we got it about 12 or 13 years ago. And I love them because they are not a huge dogwood, and they are so colorful. And we have a lot of maples that are colorful in early spring, but when they go subdued, then these light up the summer landscape.
Right. Yeah, they really, really do. They're the
Yes.
perfect entry. And you guys are about to see. We're gonna go down into this, what looks like a wooded space, and it is a high shade area. I've been covering this a lot recently. That you can mix plants more than you think, sun and shade wise, if the trees are kind of limbed up high like this. So let's get down in there. All right, so this is a perfect entry down through the center of this space, down into the bottom of the lot. Okay, there's a Japanese maple right behind you. How many do you have?
Yes. We have north of 200.
North of 200.
So that is maple, species maples, and the ones that would be considered Japanese, probably something less than 200.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So when did that collection start?
Well, I think the first one was around 2000, and I love all kinds of plants, and Jim is a collector at heart, so we'd go to nurseries and he'd say, "Do we have this one?" I'd say, "No, let's buy it." And so it started and just steamrolled until we had so many. But they're a lot more varied than people realize. The typical weeping one, upright, red, green, variegated, and you mix all that up, and there's just so much variety.
So how big of a space is this?
Our lot is 1 1/3 acres, and most of it is in the backyard, which we enjoy. So what was woods has become a woodland garden.
Right, and it's very sloped. And so we're standing,
Yes.
we've come down about 30 more steps in between those dogwoods past the Japanese maple. And how far down do you think it falls down to that creek from there?
Oh,
Another 30 or 40
down,
feet?
yes, down past the swing. There's a small creek that's dry a lot of the times and only supplied when it rains hard.
Right, and so has it been difficult gardening on this type of slope?
I thought it would be quite a challenge, but I found it's really pleasant and many plants are happy on a slope. For example, I love Daphne odora, and I'm successful. That's not my claim to fame. I think it's my sloped lot that the Daphne is very happy.
How do you keep the deer out?
We, several years ago, put up a deer fence.
Okay.
We have lots of deer in this neighborhood, and so we
Right.
had some fencing up, and then Jim installed their metal posts with a wire, and from that wire is suspended deer netting.
Okay, so it's like a 7 foot tall?
7 foot, and
7
that's what
foot.
it needs to be.
Okay, and I have a 7 foot deer fence that I use. I actually use it for keeping rabbits out of my garden, but it's a doubled over. Yeah, it's lasted me a while. How long has yours been up?
Oh gosh, it's been up maybe 3 or 4 years now.
And still?
And still doing well, yes.
Okay. Well, that's awesome.
We
and
know
it's
because
probably,
we can now grow hosta.
right, and a slightly less expensive, not with no cost, but
Yes.
less expensive than
Yes.
other options. So tell me about your swing, your vines.
Yes,
that you have.
this is Katsura Vine.
Yes.
We had a swing that Jim built for our girls when they were young, and so
Right.
we saved the frame and brought it down here and put a porch swing on it.
Right.
and put latticework on the top, and this is Katsura Vine. I planted a kiwi vine near the same time, and that has woven its way through the Katsura.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
And there's one looking at me right on the other side of the deer fence. But you can see the plastic fence is 7 feet. She's running off in that direction. And he's got the metal post down here and a wire running across the top to make it tight. That's a and he just said easy to repair as well. But you can see there was a deer right on the other side of it. So one of my favorite things in the shade is to use gold and variegated pieces because they really show up. You want to show off some of yours?
Sure, I love variegated plants, and I think they do brighten the shade. So here we have a little broadleafed carex called snowcap, and then also nearby are some hostas. Lungwort, of course, is a great plant for being speckled with pale colors. There's another carex called Feather Falls, I think.
Yeah, I think that is Feather Falls.
Here.
We've seen this one. This is what I keep telling people. If we see them in a bunch of places, they're probably pretty good.
Yep.
This is the third time I've seen Feather Falls in about 4 weeks.
And even some little ajugas are bright.
Yeah.
I think that's Burgundy Glow.
Yeah, let me get that to focus on that for folks. Yeah, down along the ground
Yes.
there. Okay, we'll head to this other side.
Yes, on the other side, here is some Brunera. Alexander's giant, I believe, still trying to grow into a giant.
Yeah, and is it already is it flowered?
It has flowered already.
Gotcha. Great blue flowers, but it doesn't need them.
Yes, I agree. The leaves are enough all by themselves.
Yes.
There are some nice variegated pieris, which stay at a nice size.
Right, and that's evergreen too. So
Yes,
another thing in the shady areas, it's sometimes difficult to have evergreen things.
Oh, some fun little Simicifuga or bugbane has a white wand this time of year.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned chartreuse. Here's good old Aurelia Sun King. It always brightens up a spot.
Yeah, and amazing down here in, under some pretty big trees.
Yes.
Super showy. There's a few more variegated
Oh, yes.
things as we.
There's a little Nandina, I think the one white variegated.
Yeah, and I have this one. I showed it off in a tour video at the house a couple of weeks ago. It's this one's very similar to Firepower, so it turns red in the winter, stays evergreen, of course, but then it has this variegation. Did the variegation take a couple of years to show up on yours?
I was just going to say that. Yes, it did.
Yeah,
it was several years. At first I thought, oh, what have I purchased? And then
right.
Here it came.
Yeah,
and now it's kind
right.
of showing white.
Yeah.
And then a nice little clethra behind there.
Yeah, that's a great variegated clethra. There's several different variegated clethras. You got a red bud that has.
Yes, whitewater. Before we had our deer fence, the deer would come in and help themselves to that. So it's really reforming itself.
Right.
But it's finally getting a little cascade look to it.
Yeah, it looks great. It really does. There we go.
And
All
then
right.
the hydrangea Yuki Gesho, I think, is a lovely thing.
It is, and I've got this one. And have you seen it flower?
I have not.
Yeah, I haven't seen it flower, but again, it doesn't need to.
Yes.
But yeah, mine is not flowered, but I'm hoping to see one this year. But again, probably wouldn't matter all that much. What's the grass?
That is Miscanthus cosmopolitan.
And it's doing well.
I'm
down in the
amazed.
shade.
It's doing okay.
Yeah,
It probably
yeah.
isn't thickening up much, but it's holding its own and standing up straight.
Right.
So it's doing its job.
And then you have one additional tree here.
Yes, this is a Zelkova, and we got it as a very small plant. So it's tucked in here with plans to grow up and be the overriding tree in the area.
Wow, it's amazing how it probably hasn't grown a whole lot. The variegation's probably slowing it down.
Correct. It has been fairly slow.
Right.
But now at least we can see it, and I love the leaf.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, so here's one of Lynn and Jim's Daphne on a slope. I've always talked about Daphne being, they can be finicky. Even with this clay soil, though, up here in North Raleigh on this slope, they're amazingly vigorous. This one is at least 3 feet tall and probably maybe 4 to 5 feet wide, and there's several of them in the landscape. Every time we pass one, I'm like, wow. A lot of times they don't reach this size, even even when they're planted well. But these are just absolutely beautiful. Do they bloom well?
They do.
You're getting enough light at the right time.
Yes.
So with deciduous trees, right, and then they're
Yes.
protected
Yes, and then and in February it's just marvelous.
Wow, beautiful, incredible fragrance. down near the bottom of the back garden space, and we're a long way from the house. The house is, you know, I don't know how far it is up the hill there, and it's at least probably 40 feet of drop from the top up there where the water feature is. And coming down, I think people would think they had to spend a lot of money terracing something like this, but you have used a combination of fallen limbs, some stone. There is some stone up in there, and I'll show some of that in just a minute. But for the most part, you've turned the paths at a 90-degree angle, and used logs, fallen trees, those kinds of things.
Yes. When I started paths through the woods, I outlined them with logs, and so then that just became a habit. And recently we had a major tree come down here, and it was too expensive to get it out of the backyard, so we just had them cut the logs and again use it to line paths.
Right. So are you wheelbarrowing mulch down here for all these paths and things? Or?
We use our leaves. We are in the
Yes.
county. We do not have debris pickup, so we have many hardwoods on the property, and the leaves come down, and many of them are just in the pathway. We try with the beds to mulch them up and replace them in the beds as compost.
Right. Okay, I got you. But but all the paths are done with the leaves.
Oh, yes. Every couple years, I will say, we get a load of mulch and do line the paths just to preserve them.
Right. Nice. One thing I want you guys to get from this video that's probably hard to see in an individual take is it really is cut up into rooms. So there's a series of paths and trails that go around, but ultimately you land in little rooms. And so,
Yes.
right, where we saw the variegated
Yes.
pieces down there, that was with intent.
Yes, my white walk. if
That's
you
your
will.
white walk. Okay, I got you. So originally everything was supposed to have a white flower or
be variegated, yes.
be variegated. Okay, so plans, there's plans, and then it's broken up again into individual rooms. There's a lot of stone out here.
There is.
Yeah,
We love stone, and when we were much younger, we would haul it home from
Right.
construction sites where they were going to dispose of it. We have bought some since. I wanted to make a little stone mountain, so I thought before I aged too far, I better get it done.
How does someone stop and you stopped and asked construction folks? And,
Yes, and we found out at road cuts they were going to bring in riprap, and they don't want the natural stone.
Right.
So we loved that.
Oh,
We'll
okay,
take
got
that.
you, got
Yeah.
you. So you're putting it in a trunk.
Yes, yes.
And then carrying it down this
We're
hill.
rolling it down the hill.
Right. Well, it's beautiful, and I love the way you've used it, and you've stood a lot of them up on their sides, used some of them to edge paths, and lots of different uses for them. This is an example of where you have used stone.
Yes.
Some of it natural. You did these walls yourself?
Yes, I did do these walls. Yes.
Okay.
So just want it on a slope again, and this was a focus plant. This is an abashidare, and it needed I wanted to give it a circle. So this was
Right.
a pallet of stone we purchased for the purpose of building this wall.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And you pointed out that using on a slope like this, you can use a few stones.
Yes, we always have a supply of stones,
Right.
or a log is good too, but many plants on a slope, the soil's going to wash away from below the plant. So
Right.
I'll come in and buffer the plant underneath
Right.
or below with a stone or a log even.
That's another question I used to get a lot of times. People wanted to plant the plants at the angle of the slope, and I was like, no, you got to plant them straight up.
Yes.
But that leaves a little bit of soil exposed.
It
and
does.
So that you're using the stone.
Yes, to create that level spot for the plant.
Right. Nice. So that's another question I'm going to get for this video for sure if we don't answer it. Where's your maintenance crew?
Oh gosh, it's a crew of two, Jim and me.
Right. And you've installed other than your fountain up here. This
Yes.
has been a two-person
Yes.
endeavor.
Yes.
Wow. It's really amazing. So how long has the fountain been in, Lynn?
We had this done about 10 years ago. Had wanted a water feature for a while, and had this put in, and we couldn't be happier.
And you've
with
got a
it.
bridge.
The
You're standing on a
bridge.
bridge.
One stone slab from Pennsylvania is the bridge.
Wow, that's amazing. So it basically you have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe a fifth fall, something like that.
yes.
4 to 5 falls
Yes.
that are all making a good amount of noise, and then
Yes.
of course you've got it well planted. Like so many. This is your sunny spot, huh?
It is my sunny spot, one of the few in the yard that get pretty good sun through the day.
Right. Nice. So your shed back there, I have a very decorative shed in my garden as well. And
Yes.
in a small lot for me, I definitely had to have it look
Yes, like part of the
Right, so
plan.
Jim built this.
Jim built this as a playhouse for our girls, and now I store garden things in there now.
Right, and it's a beautiful backdrop to the garden.
I love looking at it. I told him it's my favorite yard ornament.
You started to work on a formal garden under here using some English boxwoods.
Yes.
And then you had a volunteer noxious weed.
Yes.
Right.
The one good thing in life to do with a ligustrum.
Right.
Make a topiary.
You made a topiary out of it, and it never flowers, so it's not
Yes.
making seed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or if it starts to, it's time to prune it.
Right.
So I cut them off.
And you have two views of this, from the back porch back here, and then coming in from the
Yes.
side entrance. This little formal garden.
Yes, the boxwood, they struggled a little in the shade. The dark green did well. The variegated was harder to get established.
Right.
But
And we were just talking about just a second ago. You have the variegated boxwood, which we talked about, variegation or chartreuse colors. And the other thing is greens.
yes.
Green, there are lots of shades of green.
So many shades.
Right, and when you have a shade garden like this, the greens really.
Yes, and even just mixing up greens as a color palette, dark green, lime green, light green, there's a million.
All right, so you said that you weren't gardeners. You buy this big giant lot
Yes.
in North Raleigh. It's got this slope.
Yes.
And you go from not gardening to plant collector.
Yes.
Right, how does that happen?
Well, I used to not particularly have a hobby, and
Right.
I, was working, had our home, then stayed home with children, and then
Right.
start looking at this lot and think maybe I'll get a few plants. And
Right.
then once I started, it was an immediate fondness for it.
Right.
And I realized my father said, I just like to watch things grow. He was
Right.
a vegetable
Right.
gardener, but I'm an ornamental, but I do like to watch things grow.
But but in this space though, I mean, there's not many things that I would consider, I mean, that's ultra common. So you've gone a step beyond a lot of folks. So you guys volunteer at the Ralston.
We do.
Okay,
yes.
what kind of tasks do they have you?
Well, right now we're very honored that they're letting us prune the Japanese maples.
Ooh, okay, gotcha.
Jim and I are members of the Maple Society, and we
Okay.
try to keep ours in good shape, and we're very
Right.
concerned about how to do that, so they have let us begin to do that at the Arboretum
Right,
as well.
and the actual emblem for the Arboretum is a Japanese
It
maple
is,
leaf.
that's right.
And they have the big giant weeping
One-
maple at the front.
Yes.
And I guess that the thing there was that there can be no angle, line of sight where you wouldn't see.
Mark Wethington says that. There's nowhere you can stand in the garden and
Right.
not see a maple in your view.
Right, well there's no place in this garden where a maple can't stand and see another maple.
I'm afraid that's true.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's an incredible collection. I hope this is kind of a quick, first video up here, guys. I hope hope you'll have me let me come
glad
back
to,
in. Yeah,
yes.
there's so many things to look at here, and Jim and Lynn have just a beautiful, beautiful garden. And I'm going to come back and show maybe some of the groupings of plants. There's an incredible collection of hosta, an incredible collection of, again, Japanese maples.
Cryptomeria, Elysium.
Cryptomeria, Elysium, and so on and so forth. Even Daphne. I showed you one Daphne. There's a lot of different varieties of Daphne out there as well. So thanks for being such a great host.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Awesome. Thanks for watching, guys. We're still making movie magic. Okay. I'm gonna walk through the biggest spider web ever.
Oh, so
Okay.
sorry. We should have cleared all those.
No,
for
it
you.
doesn't. You didn't know I was going to traipse between plants and beds. Okay. All right. So